News Talk, 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM WTOB. You're listening to the Wealth Guardians with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm your host, not Doug Ray. I'm Brice Payne, and with me in Doug's chair is Garrett Ray. And this week we are talking about taxes. Taxes. We're going to make this a fun show about taxes, at least in the first segment. That's our first segment. And our second segment, we'll get to you about that afterward. But Garrett, welcome again back into the Wealth Guardian studio. How are you doing?
Doing great, Brice. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Garrett, we had an incredible weekend last weekend of the first full week of college football, one of my just absolute favorite times of year, and talk about some great in-state games last week. Did you manage to catch either the NC State versus ECU game or the NC versus App State?
You know, Brice, it is a great time of year. I look forward to it every year. This may pain some of our listeners, but I caught none of those games. Of all four schools, none of them happened to be my alma mater. I'm an undergrad Citadel graduate, and then I got my master's degree from Wake Forest. So
okay, another great game there. Not great to watch all the way through, but great in that Wake won, and most people listening here are probably Wake fans to some degree or another. Yeah, absolutely great game. Now your dad, of course, is an ECU grad, so he appreciated. I was texting him throughout the game during some of those good plays. Just so rough to see both of the underdogs, both App State and ECU, lose in the very last play or last seconds of the game. Unfortunate, but they were. If that's any indication of what the rest of college football season is going to go like, I'm excited.
We're all there.
And how did your alma mater do?
Oh, we have not been so great at football here the past couple of years. So, I mean, the Citadel is a small school. App State, you were just talking about them. They would come down there to Charleston and regularly kick our butt. So it was not the best.
All right. We won't bring that anymore. But let's go ahead and get started with the show. We're going to be talking about taxes, and of course, we will need to do the Wealth Guardian Service Salute. And every week, we're honored to thank our military and our first responders and their families for their sacrifice in serving our community, and of course, making our safety and freedom their mission. And each week, we want to salute a specific individual. So if you know someone out there we should recognize, please email our team at salute@thewealthguardians.com, and we will be in touch with you to get the details that we need so we can mention your loved one here on the show. And Garrett, who are we honoring this week?
Yeah, well, this week we're honoring a familiar voice, Doug Ray. Yeah. So a little bit more background on Doug, at least during his service time. So Doug earned his commission as a naval ensign through Aviation Officers Candidate School in Pensacola, Florida in 1981. Upon completing flight school, he was assigned to Squadron VP-16 as a naval flight officer, flying the P-3 Orion, also known as a Soviet submarine chaser. During his service in the Navy, he earned Mission Commander designation. He participated in the Grenada campaign, as well as the initial search and rescue mission for the team of the Challenger that unfortunately exploded shortly after takeoff in 1986. Yeah. After his duty at VP-16, Doug served an instructor tour back at Pensacola, Florida. He separated from active duty with the rank of Lieutenant Commander in 1988, serving several more years in the Navy Reserves in North Carolina. Doug returned to North Carolina with his family in 1988, transitioning into his financial career. He initially got his start with Merrill Lynch out of Charlotte, and then in 1998 started his own firm. Doug is the owner and founder of the Wealth Guardians and Ray Financial Group, serving offices and clients in the Winston-Salem greater area as well as Charlotte. He and his wife Sherry have been married for 42 years. They have 2 sons and 4 grandchildren.
Very good. All right, Garrett, thank you very much for doing that. And Doug, thank you for your service out there. Remember, if you know someone who's served and would like them honored on our show, all you have to do is email us at salute@thewealthguardians, and we'll give you an honorary mention just like we did Doug there. So thank you, Garrett, for doing that. Now let's go ahead and get started with the show. I thought, since we've got a seminar, and we'll talk more about the seminar on taxes coming up here in a little bit, but I thought since Doug's not here, we would talk only about taxes, and at least in this first segment. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to ask all of you out there, not trivia questions so much, but just questions about taxes to see what you know about taxes. And Garrett's going to be our kind of our guinea pig here. So we're going to get started on this. And our first question that we're going to talk about taxes on, what, Garrett, was the first tax implemented in the United States caused a rebellion. The first taxes implemented, now this is the key word, in the United States caused a rebellion. What was the tax levied on? And I'm asking you that out there as well. Do you have a guess at that?
I think I got a lot of history swirling around in my head. Is this the whiskey rebellions?
Whoa, yeah. Right off the bat, he gets it. Outstanding. Alexander Hamilton imposed the first tax in the U.S. on whiskey. And of course, people were extremely unhappy about it. Violence quickly broke out. Tax officers were assaulted and tarred and feathered for trying to do their jobs, and several people were actually killed during the riots. The whiskey rebellion was eventually quashed in 1794, and the whiskey tax remained in effect until 1802, when Thomas Jefferson repealed it. Very good. So right off the bat there, Garrett gets one. Very nice. Now, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardians, and we are talking about taxes in this first segment, and we're asking you kind of tax trivia out there about all things taxes. So let's get on to the second question. Garrett, which president gave us federal income tax? And we're not just asking Garrett, we're asking you out there. Take a guess at that. Which president gave us the federal income tax?
I'm going again through history. I believe the federal income tax was instituted in 1913. Who was president at the time? Was that Coolidge or Harding?
Well, you are right in that in 1913 is when the 16th Amendment established the federal income tax. So you're spot on there, but it was actually Abraham Lincoln signed the Revenue Act in 1861, which imposed the first ever federal income tax. And we did that to drum up funds for the Civil War. And it was a modest 3% tax on income over $800, which would be in today's dollars $23,000 today. So that was the first time that the United States had a federal income tax. So you know what, Garrett, you're on fire here, man. You got a second one there as well.
But you got some curveballs there, Brice. So this is interesting.
That was very good. All right. So the reason that we're talking about taxes is because, Garrett, we have a tax seminar coming up. We just did one on Thursday last week, and we've got another one coming up on Tuesday the 13th. So that's this upcoming Tuesday. And if you've watched the news lately, you're well aware that the stock market has suffered huge losses in the past 6 months. But if you're only concerned about the market and you're not concerned about taxes, then it's like a football coach only being concerned about the offense and not the defense. You have to be concerned about the defense as well. So most people think about this. I'm asking you, would you rather save $1 in taxes, or would you rather chase $1 in the market? If you've taken a moment to think about that, you'd probably say, well, I'd rather just save the $1 in taxes than trying to chase $1 in the market. Well, we want to help you do that. And there's a lot of changes that are going on in the tax codes, especially when it comes around taxes in retirement. So that's the name of our seminar. And Garrett, it's coming up Tuesday the 13th. At 6:30 p.m. And here's just a little taste of some of the things that we're going to be covering. Why taxes may be the biggest retirement risk you haven't planned for. Okay, little known gotchas in the Secure Act that will have an impact on your retirement, and that's including the critical gotcha of RMDs that the IRS just defined in February of this year. RMDs, required minimum distributions. That's the distributions you have to take from your IRA accounts, your inherited IRA accounts, and your inherited Roth accounts. By the time you are 72. They changed that a few years ago. Another topic we're going to be bringing up is how legislative risk can impact your tax brackets, even if nothing about your personal situation changes. So there's a lot of other subjects that we're going to be talking about as well, but that is on Tuesday the 13th at 6:30 p.m. Last Thursday, we had a really good showing, and a lot of good information was passed along there. You do need to register. There's no cost or obligation to attend, but you do need to register, and you can give us a call at 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. Or you can also register by going to our website, thewealthguardians.com, and click on the Events tab. All right, so let's get back now to these questions on taxes. You ready for the next one, Garrett?
I'm ready.
Why? You're not going to get this one. I love this one. Why did several million children in the United States suddenly disappear in 1986?
Several million children in 1986.
I love this question. Everyone out there is listening to this going, what on earth is he talking about? I never heard that on the news.
That is wild, Brice. I have the foggiest idea right now.
Why did several million children in the U.S. suddenly disappear in 1986? Because with the Reform Act of 1986, the IRS started requiring that taxpayers had to list their dependents' social security numbers for the first time on their tax returns. And when the citizens were forced to provide this evidence, several million children dependents mysteriously disappeared from the next year's filings.
That is very comical.
Very great question. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead now. We've got to take a break, of course, but let's go ahead and get to our trivia question. And Garrett, here is our trivia question. Are you ready?
I'm ready for another one.
Garrett, who said the hardest thing in the world to understand is taxes? What a simple question. I'm asking you that out there as well. We are going to get the answer on the other side of the break. Think about that for a moment. Garrett's thinking about it. He's on fire. Let's see if he gets it. This is Brice Payne. With me is Garrett Ray. The show is The Wealth Guardians, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. And this is News Talk 94.5 WPTI. And this is 96.7 FM, WTOB. News Talk 94.5 WPTI, 96.7 FM, WTOB. You're listening to The Wealth Guardians with Doug Ray, helping you retire the job and keep the paycheck. I'm Brice Payne, along with not Doug Ray, but Garrett Ray is sitting in with us this week. And this segment, we are talking about getting satisfaction in retirement. Getting satisfaction in retirement. So before we get started on that, we've of course got the trivia question. I know that's why you stuck around through the break. And before I get to the trivia question, I've got a question for you. Are you looking forward to retirement? Think about that question for a second. Are you looking forward to your retirement? I would certainly hope you answered yes to that. Do you want to confirm that you're making the best decisions for your retirement? Now, I really hope, and Garrett especially hopes, that you answered yes to that. So if you answered yes to both of those questions, then I've got good news for you. We here at the Wealth Guardians, Doug Ray, myself, Garrett Ray, we offer a no-cost, no-obligation second review opinion of your current portfolio, and we're going to see how we can help you retire the job and keep the paycheck. We do this with about 50 couples a year, and we wanted you to be one of those couples. So please give us a call, 336-391-3409. No cost, no obligation, 336-391-3409, and we will see what services and advice we can provide you in helping you plan holistically for your retirement goals and dreams. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, Garrett, we've got a trivia question for you. And I know out there, I know some people got this. Let's see if Garrett got it or not. Garrett, very simple trivia question here. Who said the hardest thing in the world to understand is taxes? I know it's a very open-ended question. Probably a lot of people have said it, but there's one person in particular that is kind of it's ear-catching when you think of who might have said this.
I don't have a good answer for this one, Brice. My streak is going down, man.
All right. Well, let me give you a clue then or two. He has a PhD in physics. He has an honorary degrees in science, medicine, and philosophy.
Einstein? Wow. Okay.
Einstein, out of all the things that he studied in life and how far his mind took us up the flagpole of knowledge, the hardest thing in the world for him to understand was taxes. So once again, Garrett, very impressive. Glad to have you on the team. That just shows you the wealth of knowledge that Garrett has brought to the Wealth Guardians.
A little bit of help there. A little bit of help.
All right, Garrett, what are we talking about here in this second segment? Getting satisfaction. Talk to me about that. What's going
absolutely.
on here?
Getting satisfaction in retirement. You know, Brice, it's interesting. We just had a couple in here the other day, and it's amazing to me how many folks come in and they're a little bit anxious, a little bit nervous about this change in their life that's coming up.
Retirement,
absolutely. And one of the things that we help them do is this first topic, peace of mind, regardless of what's happening in the stock market or around the world.
Yep.
How do we help with that?
Well, this people moving into retirement, they've spent the last 30, maybe 40 years of their life collecting a paycheck and saving money. And there's a certain tax bracket that they've fallen into, the earned income tax bracket. They understand taxes to some degree. But everything changes when you no longer are going into work. You're no longer collecting that paycheck. You're falling into different tax brackets. You might be filing for Social Security. Social Security is taxed very differently than what your paycheck is taxed at. If you've got a pension, that might be taxed differently as well. And now you're no longer contributing to your 401k, and that's called dollar cost averaging. You are now pulling money from your 401k, and everything changes. It's basically like, I don't know, you throw a ball up in the air, it's going up in the air, well, then it turns around and comes back down. That's basically the change that is happening in your life when you go into retirement. And you have to plan for that. Well, a lot of people realize, hey, I've saved, but there's more to planning than saving. I need to talk to a professional. And people will come into us and they will be really nervous. They want to retire in the next 1, 2, 3 years, and they really have no clue if they can do that. They don't have any idea. They're afraid that they might get bad news. And once in a while, we do have to give somebody bad news, saying, hey, based on your expenses, based on your other forms of income in retirement, based on how much you've saved, you're not going to be able to retire when you said you could. But if you do, we've got to change some things. That happens from time to time. But a majority of the people who come into us, we are giving them the answer that they were really looking for. Can I retire in 3 years like I was wanting to? And sometimes we even get to give them better news than that. Say, hey, you could retire right now if you wanted to. And they don't believe that. And this is your dad has said this many times on the show. This is the reward that he really looks for in doing what he does. And I see it too, and I love it as well. Giving somebody the good news that, hey, you do get to retire when you said you wanted to, and spend the kind of money that you want to in retirement. You're set. You've done all the hard work for those many years, and the relief that comes in some people's eyes. We had a couple in here, Garrett, just 2 weeks ago. They were so elated to hear the news and to realize what actually really good financial shape they were in. He went out and bought her a Rolex watch, a $20,000 Rolex watch. Now, I'm not recommending that everybody do that, but their financial picture was pretty good. And she was going to be continuing making some pretty good money for the next couple of years. But to have given them the news, and it's kind of funny because you and I and your dad do this so often, sometimes we can be able to read through those financial lines just right away and be able to see, it's like, well, and we kind of laugh under our breath sometimes. Like, what are you guys worried about? You're going to get a pension of $3,000 a month. You're going to have combined Social Security of $7,000 a month. And your expenses, you're telling me your expenses are only $5,000 a month? What's the problem here? You've saved up, $500,000. Well, we see that there's not a problem, but sometimes they don't.
And I think for a lot of people, they just need that kind of neutral third party connecting the dots for them, showing them the plan. Showing them, hey, this is the boundaries, and stay within those boundaries, and we execute the plan, you'll be right on track.
And that is what the peace of mind is all about, and that is one of the main things that we bring to the people who come in and sit down with us. And most of the time, they end up becoming clients of ours. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Wealth Guardians, and we are talking about getting satisfaction in retirement. I'm Brice Payne. With me is Garrett Ray. And Garrett, what is the next peace of mind, or what is the next getting satisfaction element here that we're talking about in this second segment?
Absolutely. So, you've kind of heard the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. The next topic I'd like to ask you about is, let's talk about diversity of income streams so that we're not too reliant on one source or another.
Okay, so a source of income, let's say one of your sources of income is coming from the stock market. So whether it's an IRA or a Roth or a non-qualified account, so you got different types of tax shelters to come from. You want to be able to pull from those in the right ways in the right years. If you you don't want to blow through all of your Roth money in year one to avoid taxes, because you might have been keeping yourself from getting into that 12% tax bracket by staying in the 10%. But boy, wouldn't it have made sense to save on some of that Roth money later on so you could take distributions from it after you filed for Social Security, and now you're in the 22% tax bracket? Maybe dipping a little bit into that Roth account in one of those years would mean that you're staying in the 12%. That's a whole 10% difference there. But that's not what we're talking about when we say diversity of income. It is a little bit. But all of that I was just referencing here and thinking in my head, all of that is centered around the stock market.
Right.
Well, what happens when the stock market is going down? I know it's a rare concept. It's hard for a lot of us to get our heads around. What do you mean the stock market going down? Well, right. I'm being sarcastic there. Of course, the market's been going down for the last 6 months here. Actually, more than that, the last 9 months now.
Yeah.
But should you have a source of income that is not reliant on the market whatsoever? And there's different sources of that. You could have CDs or a fixed annuity or a fixed indexed annuity.
Right.
Those are not based off of the stock market, so that if the market is going down, you want to preserve those shares as much as you can, because if you're still taking money from your IRA that is based on the market, and you're pulling shares from that, then it's going to be all the much harder for that to climb back up.
Yeah.
But if you had a CD in reserve, or you had a fixed annuity in reserve,
or a LERP.
Or a LERP, or a reverse mortgage for that matter as well. Those are a great tool that very many people do not use when they could be using those to their advantage. Those shares of that, so to speak, do not go down when the market goes down. So if the market has gone down, you pull from those reserves, so to speak, and let the accounts that you have that are based on market performance, give them a chance to breathe and catch back up when the market turns around. And if you've got a really well-designed retirement plan, a well-balanced retirement plan, you don't just have IRAs and Roths and non-qualified accounts in the market. You've got other reserve accounts out there for when the market is going down. And that's how you want to balance your portfolio out. And that's what we here at the Wealth Guardians do for our clients. And if learning more about something like that sounds good to you, please give us a call, 336-391-3409. Garrett, myself, Doug will sit down with you and go through our 4-meeting process with you. No cost, no obligation for doing that. And we'll help you see how you can restructure your accounts, how you can reallocate your portfolio to where it's your monies, your hard-earned monies that you've worked for the last 40 years or so, how those can best serve your goals and objectives in retirement. Now, there's another element in retirement that we want to talk about, and that's taxes. And Garrett, about every 2 months here at the Wealth Guardians, we do a seminar for the people in the community in the whole Triad area, and we've got another one coming up, and that's this Tuesday, the 13th. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so if you're going to go learn a lot about, different tax strategies that you need to be aware of, different congressional acts that have been passed, and we've got quite a plethora of information regarding that.
It's called the Taxes and Retirement Seminar. It's this Tuesday the 13th at 6:30 p.m. You might be very familiar with the tax brackets that you've fallen in for the last 30 years or so, but when you retire, and that's what this seminar is called, Taxes and Retirement, everything changes once you are no longer drawing that paycheck. How your income is taxed changes. And if you haven't prepared for that, you really want to. So if you're getting close to retirement, this would really be a good seminar for you. And we're going to talk about why taxes may be the biggest retirement risk that you haven't planned for, how to calculate the total amount of taxes you may pay on your IRA or 401k in retirement, whether creating tax-free income from your current qualified account makes sense from you, IRA to Roth conversions, we're going to talk about that, qualified charitable distributions, QCDs, how to give charitably so that you're not taxed on those monies. There's a lot of different things that we cover. And again, that's this Tuesday, the 13th at 6:30 p.m. There's no cost or obligation, but you do have to register with us. And our phone number again is 336-391-3409. You can also register by going to our website, thewealthguardians.com, and clicking on the event tab. And that's about all I've got to say about that. Garrett, what else do you want to add?
No, I think it's been a great show, Brice, and as we find ourselves often, we have run out of time.
We've run out of time. We wish everybody out there a great rest of your weekend. Let's go to all the Carolina football teams out there. And for whoever's listening to us in South Carolina, go Clemson as well. This is Brice. With me is Garrett. And this has been the Wealth Guardians. News Talk 94.5 WPTI. 96.7 FM WTOB.